It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It's another month. That means top 5 tips of the month. I gotta be honest, I'm actually enjoying myself so far. Granted, it's only been like 24 hours since the event went live, but I'm actually enjoying myself. Looking forward to kind of like grinding out stuff in the month, whether I'm doing cabinet difficulty or whatever needs to be done. So, what are my top 5 tips of the month? Well, first of all, we're going to start off with solo objectives, or the solo objective, which you can see I've absolutely done. I've done a video on this about like, you know, spending and also like the objectives in general. In a nutshell, with the objectives, if you don't know, and here's the biggest thing, a lot of people just quick to jump on to go, practice, use practice. In theory, that does work, but yes, in order to do the objective, to get 200k start all very quickly, you need to have the champion in order to, you know, practice with it. So how does this work? You go and pick up a 1-star to make this really easy. You click practice. You check out the requirements, not restrictions, requirements, which is to have Thor, Jane Foster, have Hulk Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok, Odin, Heimdall. There's so many to kind of like note, but as I said, you've got to have the champion. I would say that if you don't have the 2-star and 3-star, that may make it difficult, and you might need to go and battle the champion in different questing, or be lucky to find that particular champion. But if you are able to practice, then you know there's kind of like the options there of just going, okay, well, sit on your 2-stars and go, oh, do I have Thor, Jane Foster? If you're lucky enough to have it, then at least you can battle against the 1-star with the 2-star, so that's something of an option. The reason that you go up against a 1-star or any 1-star at random is just because it's meant to be easy and kind of like have a, you know, a relatively easy grind for it. I want to say that a lot of people more commonly will have the champions to practice against. I need to double check whether or not you know, it would be advantageous for me to do a more of a go to this quest to face off against this, but I've got to be honest, throughout the course of the month, if you do arena, if you do the event quest, questing in general, you're more than likely to come against those particular champions. But that's that particular quick tip right there. Tip number 2 is all about start or purchases. Now, as a lot of you know, when you go to the store, you go to the Valkyrie store, there is a plethora of things to purchase, and there's some good things for those at Thronebreaker, there's some alright things for those that are Cavalier, and there's also, as soon as you're going down, there's other ones. My top tip is to purchase the things that are important to your progression titleage and are the most spiciest first. Why? It's just one of these things of going, okay, well, let's get you do get a lot of start ore, and I don't think it causes too much of an issue with your particular progression and whatever and whatnot. It's just a case of target the things you want the most, because it could be something going, oh, you're close to 6-star forming, you're close to becoming Paragon from Thronebreaker. It's just about targeting what's important first, rather than going, okay, well, let's go down to the bottom and kind of throw a load of stuff into here because I want to rank up something or whatever. It's just a case of going, look, well, let's go spicy first, or let's go more expensive first. It's also doubly important, as what you're able to do by doing so is then picking up some stuff when it comes to the start or deposit. I'll give you an example right now. So I've picked up from yesterday's little kind of grind 243,000, and what I've got to do is also I've got tier 6 basic. That's something important to grab. I'll grab that because that's the first kind of like important spend. The next time I get close to 150k, which is soon enough, I'll go and grab some tier 3 alpha catalyst, and then again that's kind of like a spicier purchase. The bigger the purchase, the more quicker it is to get to start or deposit milestones. So that's another thing that's like a win-win situation, especially from what you get from it. So the less of the spend towards the end of the month is the point I'm trying to get to with this. You know, because like the more kind of interesting stuff is down the line, especially like I personally want to get to like there in order to get some 6-star shards. So that's one thing. Tip number 3 is all about the Fight of the Valkyrie side quest. Now, the Fight of the Valkyrie side quest, look, you know, it is a good thing to grab star ore from it. It brings a huge chunk, not as huge as say doing Cavalier 100%, Uncollected 100%, which I will be doing by the way. But to do this, or when you're kind of in there, I got to be honest, I think that persistent champions or persistent charge champions are going to be some really good assets. Here's like some examples just off the top of my head. Aegon, Hercules, Mephisto, Morningstar, Corvus, Guillotine 2099, Cat Marvel Movie, Mr. Fantastic, Stryfe. Also champions like Professor X and Apocalypse can be like great assets to take on that particular content. Because you go from fight to fight for 7 fights, it means that, you know, you can build up charges, you can build up potency of these champions, and you can do the damage. In theory, there are some things to watch out for. These champions are randomized, and what I'm doing at the moment is I'm trying to prepare maybe a spreadsheet, maybe a document of some kind that kind of follows the data of what other people are doing. That's going to be the plan for a video, either going to be early next week. It just depends on the data that we get. Like, you know, for example, I faced off against Iron Fist, Beast, Namor, Cyclops, Purgatory, Drax, and Doctor Strange. And I'm about to do a third video of the day, which is going to look at like which champions I went off against, and kind of have a look at the comment section from that particular video that I did, and just kind of find out who and what people are getting on the particular fights. So it's just kind of like handy to kind of put that data together, find out what champions are popping up, and find out whether or not we can create some solid counters and persistent charge build up as we go, based on, you know, what champions are going to face off against, kind of like that. It may not happen like that, and to be honest, champions like Mr. Sinister, I think, I've highly awakened Mr. Sinister, and I think MODOK would be really fun counters to like take through from start to finish because of the build of their signature ability. Tip number 4, and it's all about unit top up. Now let's face it, July 4th deals either blasted through everyone's units, you either spend, not spend. I didn't spend, I'm a non-spender in the game, and I've got 10,000 units at the moment. My plan is to grab a load more units going into Cyber Weekend and also preparing for gifting event. More on that in a future video. Also grabbing 2,000 units in a week. I did a video on that one at the start of this week, so go and check out that on the channel. And that was an interesting one because it allowed me to look at the extent of how a player grinds units and also put in better grinding processes to improve my unit grind guides, which I'm going to have a video about how to save up units from now until Cyber Weekend, and consider a gifting event kind of grind as well, and just further prepare for those particular things, including worst case scenarios. Grabbing units is really easy, and all you need to do is, if you are non-arena type person, is to go into things like normal difficulty and just auto fight through it. The same thing with heroic and master. If you can do that, it's a good way to grab 150 units per event quest, so that's 450 units just quite easily for the month. Also going to things like classics of variants, those kind of good opportunities, especially with 2.1, 100% 2.1, it gives them more units, and also doing chapter 1 as well. It's all about energy consumption, so your energy consumption in chapter 1 and chapter 2 is less than chapter 3, so look at that as a focus point. And also grind arena. I know a lot of people aren't a massive fan of grinding arena, but it is helpful. It's also helpful to kind of put in a process of creating a team that's for summoner trials. You grab a lot of units by what seems to be like low effort. Like for me, I've got a team that can do 600,000 points in 2 hours and then go for a 2-hour refresh. I don't do it all the time because there's other content I need to be doing, but also I like to balance it into things like, you know, solo events. With event quest completion, I normally leave the last 2 chapters, or 1 chapter, or 2 quests of any given quest, so I can then blast through it when I'm doing my rotation, either auto fighting in master or I'm doing it in cavalier to kind of scoop 25 units very easy from solo events. Those are the best ways to grab a little chunk of units to help yourself out as a player. This is the final tip, tip 5, and this is all about Eternity of Pain, mainly focused on those that are Thronebreaker or early to Thronebreaker. Eternity of Pain does require you to really think about your counters. It's easier if you're Thronebreaker than you are Paragon. I know some people may disagree with that, but it is a case that when you reach to week 5, you don't need to, as a Paragon player, focusing on getting all the points. You can deduct yourself a point and still scoop up all of the rewards that are necessary. So make use of that, Thronebreaker players, before you get to Paragon. The Paragon players and Thronebreaker players are alike. They've got to think about counters. They've also got to think about the best champions to take into this particular content, and also like what will be the best counters to create a team out of. So it's always best to keep a log or information of counters that you have for one specific champion. Like going, okay, well, this week for me, Guillotine 2099 was my favourite counter against Hercules, but I tried Cat Marvel Movie, I tried several other different kind of variations of champions in order to take this one down. Now it's not quintessential to kind of note down a load of champions to counter one specific champion, but it is important to mention because you may have something that is class specific over an objective by the end of the month. You may have some other objective that again is overly specific. So it's important to have a list of those champions because you might have to filter some of them out as a counter and then think about further fights down the line with the 5 you go up against. Was it 4 or 5? 5, I think it is, as to the best counters. So the tip is create a list for yourself of champions that are good counters for the specific champion, and then you'll be able to go have like, I don't know, 5 counters per champion, and then when it comes to the final week, the gauntlet week, you can look at this with glee with a long list of champions and go, okay, well I can filter those 20 plus champions into a team of 3 that can take on all of these different ones here, or maybe one can take on 2 or maybe 3. One may be a specific one for one specific champion you had a problem with on the route. But that's been all of it. That's been the top tips for the month of July. I hope this maybe helps some people out. I hope people got a bit of perspective. I'm going to be doing lots of guides and information and fun stuff as I have fun grinding out the game. Connection problems seem a little bit better today, so there doesn't seem to be like too many connection issues, so all good. Thanks very much for watching this video. Make sure as well to check out some other content. Support the channel as you do massively and fantastically on screen right now. Content, second channel, Mirrorverse content, and also other stuff, Fall Guys, Warzone, all that stuff. See you in some streams. Cheers everybody, bye bye.